In this video, Congresswoman AOC discusses the shooting of Alex Prairie by federal agents in Minneapolis and the subsequent reactions from the Trump administration. Take a listen.
So-called excuse of border security, where Minneapolis is over 300 miles from the United States border, we have an unleashing of federal agents and violence exerting a tremendous amount of violence and lost life against the American people, who are well within their First Amendment rights, and in this case, it seems as though well within their Second Amendment rights. As you mentioned earlier, in this video, you do not see immediate evidence of anyone reaching for a firearm. It has been reported that he had a legal permit, and this administration's response is that the very fact that he was a legal firearm owner was a reason for them to shoot him in the street. You see directly from DHS's own accounts, they themselves do not claim anything in their accounts or their evidence about these actions, about any precipitating action, just the fact that he was armed. This is a pivotal moment. And if we do not do something now to contain this abuse of power and violence, which the administration has already indicated earlier this week in discussions about using the Insurrection Act, in which Carolyn Leavitt confirmed that it will be utilized, and they were looking at utilizing against Americans based on their political affiliation. If we do not do something now, I do not know what can happen afterwards. We have to contain this chaos. This administration is declaring an openness and a justification for violence against American citizens based on their organizing, based on their political affiliation, and they are using the guise of DHS to do it. We have to draw a line in the sand now, across sectors, politically, economically, in our media, and more.
AOC, she describes the incident where federal agents, possibly from ICE or CBP, shot and killed Alex Prairie. She notes that Prairie was reportedly helping a woman who had been violently pushed to the ground by an ICE officer. And guys, we have seen that right in front of our eyes.
I want to ask you what measures you want to take in a second, but I also want to get your response to what we saw from President Trump on social media. And just to note, we're all obviously, and you'll notice the Congresswoman, you'll notice me, like we're all saying, we don't know exactly what happened, we're waiting for this, but based on X, Y, Z. But that is not what we're hearing from the Trump administration. We've seen people in the Trump administration call the man who was shot, Alex Prairie, a domestic terrorist, saying that he intended to massacre people. President Trump posted on social media, he says the mayor and the governor are inciting insurrection with their pompous, dangerous, and arrogant rhetoric, unquote. Just for younger people out there who might not know this, generally speaking, when there is what is called an officer-involved shooting, meaning law enforcement kills somebody, there's an investigation and people try to temper their remarks, not rush to judgment. And when I say people, I mean people in power, presidents, et cetera. What is your response to the Trump administration saying what they're saying about Alex Prairie?
Well, it seems as though, and from all the actions before us, it seems as though this administration is trying to precipitate a flashpoint so that they can go into cities and municipalities and states based on political affiliation and exert and escalate. They are using the rhetoric of martial law and civil conflict. And it is fundamentally un-American. This is a moment, as you said, where we must cool tempers. It is time for ICE to stand down. It is time for DHS to stand down. We are seeing mothers that are being killed in the street. We are seeing, when you look at this victim, early reports seem to show that he was an ICU nurse. I'm also seeing some circulating that he may have even been at the VA, an ICU nurse.
That's right, that's right. He was an ICU nurse at the Minneapolis VA. That's right.
So we are talking about Donald Trump accusing a Veterans Affairs ICU nurse as being a terrorist against the United States, a man who was treating service members to our country, veterans, service members to our country, who was dedicating his life to serving Americans, who in his final act on this earth was helping a woman pushed to the ground. And they are calling him a domestic terrorist in order to defend their gross abuse of power, their absolute breaching of the law, and in order to also precipitate greater conflict. And it is fundamentally against the leadership and what we need right now, and what the American people need right now. It is dangerous. And again, if this administration does not put it to a stop, we must put it to a stop.
Well, let's talk about that.
That is absolutely spot on. Now, AOC, she characterized the event as a quote-unquote momentous, pivotal moment, end quote, and an unleashing, quote-unquote, unleashing of federal agents and violence against Americans. She highlights that Minneapolis is far from the border, as you have heard, questioning the justification of border security. A lot of people that are asking this question directly to ICE. Why are you here? Why are you not at the border? This is what people, they cannot wrap their heads around it.
Because I know you're not talking about violence, but I am curious as to what you think lawmakers, Democrats, citizens should do, because obviously nobody wants this to get worse.
Of course not.
Nobody wants. So do you think, for example, there is a government funding bill right now, and I've seen a lot of Democrats, I think you included, saying that there cannot be any more funding for ICE. Tell me what you think Democrats need to do.
Well, right now, you're correct that that there is a funding bill in the Senate. And I want to be clear that this really isn't just about Democrats. This is about Democrats, Republicans, and independents. And I think right now, in this moment, there has been this permission structure where we have all universally accepted that the Republican Party will simply just have no morals or fall in line with the President of the United States. And we have to challenge that logic and rhetoric every single time. I believe that oftentimes they're given a free pass, and that this accepted logic just allows them to continue to vote without any resistance from their constituencies because we've accepted some foregone conclusion. But again, Democrats do have the ability. Republicans do need 10 Democratic votes in the United States Senate to pass continued unfettered ICE voting with no guardrails as it stands. And I think that regardless of where you are in the Democratic Party, this moment and this incident proves that the status quo cannot stand. And I would implore my Democratic colleagues in the Senate to vote no against maintaining this DHS funding as it stands. I think if you are an everyday person, what is happening right now is that there is an environment of political intimidation at play. They don't want us to use our First Amendment rights. They don't want us to exercise our freedom of assembly or freedom of speech. They want to make sure that we are afraid to act as people, as employers, as a free nation. And I cannot stress enough how important it is for everyday Americans to not be intimidated out of using their First Amendment rights, which is to continue to say that when you see something wrong, we must organize and mobilize against it. We must use our freedom of assembly. And what we are seeing here right now is an administration that is deeply afraid of its own unpopularity. We must remember that we outnumber them. Donald Trump is less popular than he has ever been before. The Republican Party is on its back heels. They are afraid on multiple different fronts. The economy is doing worse than it has ever been doing recently. They are afraid because they are exposed. They are afraid of being genuinely exposed by what is happening in the Epstein files. You have the economy, and they are trying to use these as flashpoints to divide us instead of all of the things that unite us. We must put a stop to them, and we must focus on the things that bring us together so that we fight for a better future for all of us.
If you're talking about funding ICE, right, they are the 5th largest force in the world in terms of funding. 5th largest in the states. Basically, it means they have a blank check for their weapon to buy them, for manpower to hire new people, new agents to kill people. I mean, this has to stop. Otherwise, this unleashed dog will be very, very dangerous for the people in America. So guys, things are getting out of control, spinning out of control. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section below. Subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video.